call our meeting to order. If we could all rise for a moment of silence and then ask Councilman Thompson to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll notice that our practice is to pick that council member which most sounds like a frog and ask them to lead the pledge to the flag.
But guess what? I'm here.
And way over there.
And way over there.
You next, Andy.
Ms. Hoffman, could we call the roll, please?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Erdley?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Sainz?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Should say meeting.
Each of you have a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting of January the 12th, 2015. If you'd like to look those over, see if there are any possible corrections or additions. And if there are none, I'll entertain a motion that they be approved as presented.
Motion.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Second.
Go ahead.
If there are no corrections, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Each of you should have a copy of the check register. Can I see an indication that you received those? Thank you. Public comments. Council and the audience will recall that as of our last meeting, we've tried to slightly change our council procedures to provide what we hope is a more rewarding and polite experience for the citizens that would like to come before the council. We still ask for your indulgence to keep your comments within a reasonable amount of time, but we have done away with the egg timer. So I would call the first person that's signed up for public comment, Miss Monica Gonzalez. There you are. Please come forward to the podium.
Hi.
Yeah, if you just identify yourself for the council, and then we'd be glad to hear your comments.
Sure, of course. My name is Monica Gonzalez, and I'm here on behalf of wanting to come up with talk about public transportation to see if we can bring that here to Georgetown, and trying to see if we can find any ways to to bring some more, not to bring what like somewhat like what they have in Lexington. We see that Lexington has like the transit buses and more public transportation there, and so and there's also numerous reasons why me and my friend think that that would be a great benefit for Georgetown. Not only will I think it would benefit the people, but also our community. We think that with bringing public transportation here, it would bring more employment. It would help people get to their jobs that are either further away or quite a distance away. And sorry, I'm a bit nervous. I think it'll be a great idea to also not I mean, everybody needs their freedom, and so we see like that many people who either do not have cars or not enough cars, or they rely on their family members to like bring to be able to take them places, and sometimes they're not able to go where they need to go because they're either their mom or dad or who they rely on aren't able to, take time from their schedule, either from work or from, their busy schedule, everybody's busy schedule. So, everybody needs their freedom. And so public transportation would definitely most likely help people bring out their, that more freedom to be able to get out more and go to the places they would like to go, including both not just here, but also it would be great if we can also we're able to get a reliable transportation to Lexington and Frankfurt if possible. Because, of course, since Frankfurt is our the capital, so I mean everybody has will be able to go. If they have business in Frankfurt, they'll be able to gladly, get a ride to Frankfurt and also to Lexington.
Ms. Gonzalez, we very much appreciate your interest in public transportation and the benefits that might bring for our citizens. There's been an interest in public transportation in Georgetown for a very long time. The economics of public transportation are very difficult for a community of our size. We found from evaluating this idea in the past that back during the period of time when the federal government had more grant money than they do today, we found that even in circumstances where if we had been given the buses, it was difficult to operate the system in a way that the city could afford to operate. It's a large undertaking for the city alone. Now, I do know that there's an effort by Bluegrass Ultra Transit Service, the acronym BUS, is working on a set of stops that could benefit people between Georgetown and Lexington. And they're looking at trying to develop a series of stops that could be beneficial in Georgetown. For people to gather at a certain place and then have either a ride to the hospital or the doctor's complex or the grocery store. Those things are being evaluated, but that's being done on a regional basis. I think the Bluegrass Ultra Transit Service is through the Bluegrass Area Development Districts. And in fact, we've got meetings scheduled for next week to get an update on this, how this service may help our citizens. So your concerns are exactly correct, and the benefits you've mentioned are exactly correct. Our ability to provide that service is very limited, but our ability to encourage others who are in the business of providing that service, that's something we can do, and we appreciate your comments.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez, did the second person want to speak to this issue as well? Not required, but since you're signed up, I thought I'd give you the option. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight. Next on our list of speakers, our very own Megan Chan.
I'm Megan Chan, and I'm a planner with the Georgetown-Scott County Planning Commission. In the vein of following up on public transportation, I just wanted to invite both our mayor and council, as well as the public, to attend an upcoming public meeting that we'll be having on bicycle and pedestrian planning. While it's not buses and motored vehicle transportation, we are looking at some alternative transportation methods and trying to increase safe public access to bicycle and pedestrian facilities in our county. And so this would be a county-wide, county-scale plan And we're looking at potentially changing some of the development requirements and identifying projects that we would like to pursue in the future. That would include things like the Legacy Trail. That's kind of the high end, but we're also talking about just making sure that we have adequate sidewalk connections and accessibility for people to use. So it's kind of a little bit more of a technical study, but we're also looking at what areas do we need to look at, what places are people trying to get to and from, and making sure that we're providing those services to people. So on February 25th, it's a Wednesday evening, we'll be having a meeting at the Scott County Extension Office. That's 1130 Cincinnati Road. The meeting will be from 6 to 8 p.m., and we hope to see many of you there, and I can obviously follow up by email to any of the council members, but I have flyers if anyone from the public or the council would like them, and we're looking forward to hearing people's input on this planning process.
Thank you, Megan. Any questions for Megan on this particular opportunity? It's the bicycle and pedestrian trail system is something that we hope this community becomes known for, that we embrace those values, and any citizen input into these sessions I think would be real helpful.
Yep.
Thank you, Megan.
All right, thank you.
The next name on this list, Miss Tracy Hoffman.
Hello,
there you are.
everyone.
There you are.
I am doing this for Ashley Gano and Hannah Ransdale, the co-race directors for the Autism 5K. They would like to do their 5K again this year on April the 18th. Set up beginning at 7, dismantle by 12. I've checked the calendar, and that's an okay day for them. They've turned in all the things that they needed to turn in, their insurance, liability insurance, and they're using the regular 5K route. So they're just asking for your blessing.
Motion.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And that concludes our public comments. Again, in a way of all of us learning how we'll do this going forward, we still intend later on during action items that the council may consider to allow public comment during that time. Someone wants to speak to a particular issue. Under mayor's comments, just a couple of things that I'd like to make you all aware of at this point. We've announced the council appointments to the 4 standing committees that the council has, and we've been working with you to get some of those committees reinstated. We had good luck tonight. We had a Public Works Committee meeting at 5, a Finance Committee meeting at 5:30, and it helped us prepare for some of the action items that we want to bring to you tonight. That's working. We learn lessons as we go. I probably will not schedule these committees meetings 30 minutes apart or 30 minutes before the convening the next council meeting. But other than that, I am pleased with the way the council's responding and making themselves available with these committee assignments. For those of you that we haven't had a time yet to convene, that will happen pretty quickly. Also wanted you to know that something that we think City Council has needed for a while, and we're ready to move forward with this. In the interest of our presenting ourselves in the most professional way possible and giving the council the most positive, professional way to present themselves, we are making arrangements to provide city email addresses for each of you to utilize. It just seems like that's something that's been past due, that we can, at very little additional cost, we can provide a city domain name email for you to use. We can, once we get those set up, we can have individual training sessions with you on how you can access those, but you can begin to do some of your public work using a public email address. That we'll then put on the website for citizens to be able to access you easily, and just think that's an appropriate next step for you all as council members. That'll also make it a little easier if any of you wish to have business cards with your council information. We're willing to provide those for you as well, now that we have the appropriate email information to put on there. Under the mayor's comments, item A on your agenda is a resolution approving a letter of intent for Main Street accreditation. We're going to have a couple of presentations this evening about this topic. But for the background of the three council members who are very new to this, Georgetown has had a Main Street program for a number of years. Some periods it's been very active, some periods it's been less active. And late last year, we had a staff member depart pretty abruptly. And it was right before some public activities had been scheduled, and I think there was a lot of concern on behalf of the council about the Main Street program and the status of the council's funding of that program. Last year's council elected to freeze the funding to the Main Street program. And we have made no additional payments to the program since that funding was frozen. And that was probably an appropriate action on the council's behalf, given that our staff member had departed very quickly and there were concerns about the status of the program. So I applaud the council's action at that time. Since then, a lot of work has been done. I think behind the scenes, people pulled together, the board pulled together. They pulled off the Christmas parade. They pulled off the Christmas tree, which just looked great. And the program delivered on behalf of the community. Since then, the board, under the direction of Megan Chan, has been working diligently to get this program on a stable footing, a stable foundation. And what Megan and I have talked about, and what I've had the opportunity to speak with each of you about individually, is we wanted to reach clarity about what the council's expectations of the Main Street program were, what you were funding, and what you expected in return for that funding. I think the main issue that needed working through and has been worked through, I think you'll hear tonight, is a very cooperative approach with other agencies such as tourism and other groups that may have an investment or caring about downtown, to be the Main Street program's partners in events like the Christmas parade, the Festival of the Horse, and other events that will bring traffic downtown. We've talked about the truest form of preservation, the truest form of historical preservation, is making a building economically viable. And that's what I think the Main Street program can do the best for our business community, is help us with events, drawing people downtown, giving business opportunities, and making the buildings viable. We were asked to sign a letter of intent to maintain our state accreditation for the Main Street program. That letter required me to make certain statements about our collective intent going forward for the next year. After Megan and their new hire have been hard at work, I'm convinced that this letter is probably going to be okay for us to sign. But I wanted to bring these two presentations to you. I want you to hear that, and then we'll give you an opportunity to authorize me signing this letter and sending it in. The deadline has already passed for this letter to be submitted. We weren't prepared to sign the letter at the time of the deadline, but we weren't going to let the deadline simply pass and not be responsive to a hard deadline. So we negotiated an extension for the signing of this letter, and that extension is good through tomorrow. So it was the day after this meeting, but this gives the council all the time they need to hear from Megan Chan and Megan Funk, our new interim executive director. And I think you'll be confident after these presentations in allowing me to sign this letter of intent. You'll notice on your agenda we have 2 action items listed under the Main Street program. The second one was actually a resolution to reinstate that funding. And what I'm going to ask you to do tonight when we get to that point is ask you to postpone for 1 month your consideration of that resolution so that we can have another month to evaluate the progress, another month for the council to get comfortable with the direction of the program before we formally ask you to reinstate funding. So ultimately tonight, you'll hear these 2 presentations and be asked to approve only the 1 resolution. So Megan Chan is board chair. Are you going to take the lead? Thank you.
All right. I'm Megan Chan. In addition to working for the planning office, I'm also the Georgetown Main Street board president. And I want to thank Mayor Prather and the council members for having us here tonight to talk about the Georgetown Main Street program. I'd also like to thank several of our board members and past board members who are here tonight just to kind of support the organization. As Mayor Prather referenced, the last year brought some kind of changes for our organization, and I think that that really provided us with an opportunity to examine the organization and its goals and its impact on the community, but it also gives us a chance to evaluate its strengths and its weaknesses. So we're seeing this really as an opportunity to evaluate and come back stronger, and that's exactly what we're planning to do. So tonight, we're excited to kind of let you know what we're planning and introduce you to Megan, but we want to show you what we've done so far since December, but also show you what we're planning to do over the next coming months. So just to kind of reiterate some of the goals and things that Mayor Prather had mentioned, we'll be increasing our communication with the public and our city and county governing bodies. We'll be providing a clarity of vision. That's something that we hear a lot. What does Main Street do? And so we want to make that crystal clear. We want to be able to show people what we're doing, why it's important, how we're helping. We also want to increase our collaboration with other aligned community organizations. So by taking these actions, Main Street can provide better and clearer services to our community. And ultimately, this would strengthen our downtown and help our community. So with that said, I'm going to turn everything over to our interim executive director, Megan Funk. We are very excited that Megan has joined us, and based on the work that she's accomplished in the last few weeks that she's been here, I really do think she's going to help us make some big changes.
Hi, I'm Megan Funk. Thank you all for letting us come here tonight and tell you a little bit more about the Main Street program and where we see it going. Just so that you know a little bit more about me, I'm from Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and I went to UK and got a degree in business administration and marketing. I then went down to Charleston, South Carolina, and got a master's in historic preservation from Clemson and the College of Charleston. While I was in grad school in the summer between, I took an internship with the Kentucky State Main Street program because I was very interested in learning about the economics of historic districts, not just saving the buildings, but how to really work with them and to bring those areas of town back to life. I was drawn to this area because I've always been impressed with successful downtowns and the creative ideas that people have for new businesses and reusing old spaces. Being part of the state office allowed me to travel all across Kentucky and to see how other communities created these inviting spaces in these successful downtowns. I also went on to work for Middlesbrough's Main Street program before I decided to move back home to Central Kentucky. To me, the Main Street program is all about making sure downtown businesses succeed and that the residents of the city and the county alike desire to be downtown. I want the Main Street district to be seen as inviting, safe, fun, and a place where people want to live and shop, go out for dinner, and just be there, basically. The National Main Street program sets up a process for this that's based on 4 points. When you read through the letter of commitment, it'll talk about the 4 points. But they are design, promotion, economic restructuring, and organization. And these also form the basis for our 4 committees. And then the committees are each tasked with reaching out beyond our board and into the community to get people involved and get things done. The National Main Street Program also asks that we involve a wide representation of the community. That's why our board of directors consists of people from the city, the county, the college, the Arts and Cultural Center, as well as other organizations in the community. And we'd also invite any of you who are interested in learning more about the community to come to a board meeting or join a committee or just volunteer for one of our events. We would love to involve more of the community in our organization, and we really hope to do that as we move forward. Some benefits of the Main Street program that we provide for Georgetown are promotions and events that bring more people downtown to shop and patronize restaurants. These activities give people in the community something to do and keep them spending money here in Georgetown rather than going to Lexington or other nearby communities. This also adds to increased revenue and employment. The program also serves to be the eyes and the ears of the downtown and stay aware of issues, concerns, and impediments to businesses that take place in downtown businesses. We also serve as a resource for information on local, state, and federal incentives for renovation projects and tax incentives. So I began 2 weeks ago on a Monday, and since then I've been meeting with people in downtown, involved with downtown. These include business and building owners. I've met with Linda at Public Works, as well as people in code enforcement and tourism. I've also attended the kickoff event for the Horsey 100 and the first committee meeting for the Festival of the Horse, so that I can learn more about the current events taking place in Georgetown and how Georgetown Main Street can assist and help strengthen them. Our committees have been busy too, tackling issues like wayfinding downtown, signage, and strengthening partnerships with organizations including the Arts and Cultural Center and the college, so that events downtown can draw a diversified group of people. I just want to conclude by saying that I think we're well on our way to reestablishing the Main Street program as an active and positive force in downtown Georgetown that works with businesses, residents, local government, and other organizations to make downtown Georgetown a destination for everyone. And so thank you all very much for listening to us tonight.
Thank you, Megan. Any questions for Megan or Megan?
I have a couple of, and actually it may be the other Megan.
Okay.
But you mentioned strengths and weaknesses. What's been your strength and what is or has been your strength? What is or has been your weakness?
Those are wonderful questions. I would say, our biggest strength, I think, is our passion. And we have so many board members and everyone there cares. Sometimes I would almost say we care too much and that sometimes we don't agree or we try and bite off more than we can really chew. And so, as we move forward, we want to take that passion and we want to get more people involved, but we want to be clear about what we're doing and making sure that we're setting realistic goals and making sure that we follow through on them. I kind of rolled those all together. Is that?
And well, I'm going to ask you a question after you
Sure.
tell me what you think the weakness is.
Probably the weakness, I think, would be clarity and communication. As we mentioned before, we hear a question, what do you do? What are you about? If we can't describe that as an organization, we're doing something wrong. And so we need to make sure that we can, put that into words and help describe what we're doing and show people. And, unfortunately, we haven't done it yet. But our board is meeting on Wednesday for our next regularly scheduled board meeting, and on our agenda we have a visioning exercise. We're going to reevaluate our mission and our vision statement. We're going to be getting together. Megan's prepared a draft elevator pitch. We're trying to kind of restructure and think about the way that we're selling what the organization does and the benefit that it does provide.
Well, I think you do need to do exactly what you're saying that you're going to do, is you really do need to make it clear, because people ask me and I can't explain to them what you do either. Yeah, we're giving $55,000 to an organization that we can't explain where the benefit is. I mean, I can see the overall economic benefit, but to define what you're actually doing is hard to do. So that would be great. And what about your board members? You said you're adding new board members?
Well, we have currently 2 vacant positions. By our bylaws, we can have up to 11 board members. It doesn't state that you have to have 11. Right now, we have 9 board members.
Okay.
At the moment, we were more focused on getting an interim director in place rather than filling those vacancies because we thought that was most important. But that is something that we'll probably look to do in the coming months, is trying to, fill those roles if we feel it's appropriate. And
Well, now, a negative that I've heard, and I don't know whether it's true or not true, it's just what I have heard that has been spoken to me, is that you don't have enough business leaders from Main Street that's on there. So I don't know who's on your board and who's not.
we have a couple, but, that's something that we could look into. If there's a business member that wants to get involved, that's what we want to hear.
Okay.
So if someone's feeling left out, send them to us. We want to get them involved.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, quick question for you. You mentioned interim. Is the, what, can you explain that a little bit?
We've appointed Megan as an interim director. What we decided was for up to 6 months. And the hope there is that she can help us kind of straighten things out and get us to a place where we're ready to either, hire her or someone else potentially as a full-time director at the start of the next fiscal year.
Okay. And she would be a possibility, obviously,
Yes.
for that. It's not
Yeah, we would-
something that she said, I'll just do this temporarily.
No.
It's,
I think it may have also been influenced a little bit by the freezing of the funding and just the uncertainty going
Sure.
forward. But it's definitely, Megan has reassured me that I'm allowed to apply, and we've discussed that possibility.
Currently with funding, what is in the bank account right now?
We have approximately $20,000 in the bank account.
Well, you still have the majority then of what was, the city gave 27,000, so you still have the majority of that in the bank.
You actually gave for a year, I think it was 55.
But we've only paid for.
Oh, from what you have
20.
paid,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, I think Karen was right. The community needs to know what's going on, especially the downtown businesses. That's very important because anything happens downtown affects all of them. They need to know. So their involvement, maybe board members is correct. It would be good.
And I will say that for Megan Funk, our new interim director, and Megan Chan as board chair, when the last executive director had swiftly departed and council frozen the funding, and this situation appears challenging, each of these ladies had the commitment and the courage to say, I'm aware of those circumstances, I want to move forward, and we can make this work. And that's an attitude that I just love to hear. And I think the fact that it is an interim position, David, was very much driven by the financial uncertainty and what this council's wishes would be. Given their approach to these challenges, I feel a lot better today than I did 2 weeks ago. And I'm confident that Megan Funk can re-engage our business community. We lacked for communication in the past, and Megan's an outstanding communicator. So I think with the right energy and the right communication, we have every reason to believe that this will continue to be successful. It's why we were comfortable tonight bringing you the letter of commitment for you to consider, even as we hold off on reinstating the full funding for another 30 days while you get more comfortable.
I'll make one more, maybe two quick comments. I mean, the resume and the experience sounds wonderful. I mean, it sounds like what this community is looking for. And the other thing that I would say is that this council has supported the Main Street program pretty significantly over the years. And I think the rest of the council would agree with this, that it's extremely important right now, maybe more important now than it's ever been before. And it's kind of a new opportunity to kind of set things in the right direction. And I think that you'll find that this body will support your efforts if they are in that right direction. I feel very confident they will be. For both of you, I'm saying that. So anyway, there's a lot to do, and I'm encouraged about it. It's something I've supported. I've had some involvements downtown. I'm out of that, but I realize the value of it, and I think the rest of us do too. And sometimes those experiences can teach you things, and I think it gives me a little bit of insight that maybe I can kind of relay or in some way try to help this body or your group as well.
Thank you. We look forward to your advice.
Well,
Well, we do. I mean, it's,
I didn't mean it that way. Maybe I didn't say it quite right. But
we want to hear from you. As Mayor Prather said, we want to be clear on both sides. What do you as the council want and expect when you're giving us tax raised money to this organization? But we need to know what you want. You need to know what we're planning. We need to make sure that all aligns.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like what you said so far about, and I would like at the next meeting before we make a decision on item B here, that you bring us back what your vision is, what your clarity on that. But one of the things that seems like has been there and has gone away is the relationship when we do have events downtown of having, like when tourism and the Festival of Horse and things like that the two bodies haven't been working together, and those kind of things, when all the events come downtown, everybody's on with it, and everybody should be a part of it and should be helping out with it. I mean, that's one thing for myself. And then the other thing is concentrating on businesses that are downtown, even businesses that are out of downtown, but letting them have the opportunity to participate too when things come downtown. So the economic part I mean, we're really very fortunate that the economic part of downtown Georgetown, you said you've been all throughout Kentucky. I mean, we have a city that's pretty when you come to the town, and it's inviting when you come to the town. That brings people back. So we want to keep that, but not just on the preservation side of it, but on the activity side and the economic value that it brings when people come into this community. A lot of them come here and they live here because they want to retire here. Now we used to see the Toyota people that came here to work. Now we see our grandchildren are here, so we're going to retire into Georgetown, and they love the quaintness of the community that hopefully we'll never grow out of. So you got a lot on your shoulders, young lady, but welcome to Georgetown.
thank you.
If there are no further questions for Megan, Andrew, we have a resolution authorizing me to sign a letter. Is the letter in the packet?
Yeah.
The resolution isn't there, but it's the letter.
The letter is not.
No.
Does that make one?
I have
Copies really
a
quick.
copy of the letter.
I have 2 copies.
Yeah,
Copies
just a
from there.
second.
We can make a copy. I mean, real quick, it's 10 points of the Kentucky Main Street program.
I can share one. We can share. I think we can make it happen, Andrew.
Make it
I
happen.
apologize. That's my fault.
Right there.
Should we read the letter for them?
Could do that.
Let me go ahead and read the letter aloud for the council and the public, if you like.
Who's going to share?
If somebody would.
We're giving ours up. No, we're not either. I like Tom said. Tom said, we don't mind reading. We don't mind reading.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Accredited Program Annual Letter of Commitment. This letter of commitment is the formal and binding statement of the plans, expectations, and responsibilities required for certification by the Kentucky Main Street Program from Georgetown, hereinafter referred to as the city, and local Main Street, hereinafter referred to as the organization. This commitment is for January 15, 2015 through January 30th, 2016. The city and the organization commit to participate in the Kentucky Main Street Program and agree to 1. Develop, implement, and maintain program commitment to the comprehensive Main Street 4-point approach as advocated by the National Trust Main Street Center and the focus of the local Main Street program on the downtown designated Main Street area. 2. Employ and maintain a full-time professional Main Street executive director, part-time director in cities with less than 10,000 population, who will be responsible for the day-to-day administration of the local Main Street organization in the community. In the event the program manager is vacated during the term of this agreement, we agree to fill the position within 3 months or less. The local Main Street manager shall serve as a liaison between the community and the local government and shall report to the local government at least quarterly. 3. Establish an organization focused on downtown revitalization that includes representation from both the public and private sectors. This board shall meet on a regular basis, at least 9 times a year, and maintain meeting minutes denoting the organizational business. Working committees shall meet on a regular basis, at least 9 times a year, including but not limited to the following committees: design, economic restructuring, promotion, and organization, and maintain meeting minutes for each committee denoting their work. 4. Work together to establish an adequate budget with funds necessary for operating a local Main Street office, implementing an active plan of work and ongoing training of the program manager and board. 5. Develop and implement a comprehensive approach to downtown revitalization using the Main Street 4-point approach and 8 principles ascribed by the National Main Street Center, including development of annual written work plan for the local Main Street organization that is based on the local Main Street vision and mission statements. 6. Provide data and statistics for monitoring the progress of the local Main Street program by submitting required reports in a timely manner using the format provided by the Kentucky Main Street program, and provide other information requested by the Kentucky Main Street program. 7. The local program must obtain a minimum of 4 training credits approved by the Kentucky Heritage Council during the January-December timeframe. Provide for the local Main Street manager and/or board member attendance at local, state, and national training opportunities. The organization shall be responsible for travel costs and other expenses associated with these meetings. 8. Establish a historic preservation ethics specifically. Point 1, the local program has an active and effective design management program. Point 2, the local program encourages renovation, restoration, and rehabilitation projects to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards. 3, the local program works to find creative adaptive use, financing, and physical rehabilitation solutions to preserve buildings. 4, the local program recognizes the importance of planning and policies that encourage redevelopment of property within the commercial district. 5, the local program coordinates financial and technical incentives to facilitate the process of attracting investments in the historic commercial district. 6, the local program educates and builds public awareness about historic preservation and for the commercial historic district's buildings. 7, and the local program advocates preserving historic buildings and advocates against demolition of historic structures. 9, establish broad-based community support for the program by the public and private sectors through financial contributions and volunteer support. Hold an annual meeting and create an annual report to share with and further educate the community. 10, credit participation in the Kentucky Main Street program in appropriate methods. Publish materials, print and electronic, including websites, social networking sites, advertising, news releases, print programs, flyers, calendars, brochures, and film and video credits. Provide copies of promotional materials to the Kentucky Main Street program as requested. 11, the Kentucky Heritage Council receives funds from the state of Kentucky. Write your state senator and representative to let them know the importance of the Kentucky Main Street program and these public funds. Provide a copy to the Kentucky Heritage Council. 12, agrees to appropriate use of the Main Street name as an accredited program by stating your program name with an accredited Kentucky Main Street program. Agrees to stop using Main Street name with no longer an accredited program determined by Kentucky Main Street program through the annual certification process as per the National Main Street Center's licensing agreement.
What was number 2? No. You need a motion for that, Mayor?
Well, we actually have a resolution we'll also ask Tracy to read. We're going to read a resolution that authorizing me to sign that.
A resolution of the City of Georgetown authorizing the mayor to sign a letter of commitment for the Georgetown Main Street program. Whereas Georgetown Main Street, a nonprofit organization, must, as part of its certification as a Kentucky Main Street program, secure the commitment of the city to jointly participate and fulfill the program's 12 requirements. And whereas the city desires to provide such commitment to Georgetown Main Street and the Kentucky Main Street program as a whole. And now therefore be it resolved by the City of Georgetown that the mayor of the city is hereby authorized to sign the attached letter of commitment on behalf of the City of Georgetown, and the Georgetown City Clerk is hereby authorized to certify thereto. The resolution was approved by the City of Council, City of Georgetown on the 26th day of January 2015.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion for approval of the resolution. Thank you. Is there a second? Ms. Conway? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On item B, under number 6, if I could have a motion, please, to...
Table.
I think what we like to do, Marvin, we learned some parliamentary procedures at the newly elected officials conference, and I think we would like to postpone this to a date certain of our second
23rd?
23rd.
23rd, I think, is the 9th and the 23rd. Yeah.
To February the 23rd, our next regularly scheduled meeting of February the 23rd.
Hey, Mayor, I'll make a motion that number 6B, resolution approving the reinstatement of funding for Main Street program, be postponed till February 23rd.
Thank you. Second. Mr. Schroeder? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Megan, thank you all. You do understand that the council is going to want some additional information prior to that vote on the 23rd. All right. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Hartley.
I am also going to ask you all to postpone this to our next regular meeting on the 9th. What we had was a resolution that was recommended by the KRCC, the Kentucky Regional Cable Commission, which we are a member, recommending essentially that we deny the transfer of ownership from Time Warner Cable to Comcast/Charter. And the reason that we would do that is because we were unable to come to terms of a franchise renewal, and they would not extend the deadline. But we learned late Friday that they have extended the deadline to the 13th in hopes that they can work out something that we can bring back to you to either approve or deny. But at this point, it wouldn't be appropriate to deny something since we've been given more time to do some negotiation. I think that about sums it up.
Every Kentucky city, I think, is dealing with cable provider issues. And when I say cable provider issues, mainly service issues, where we have not been satisfied with the service our citizens have received. We have not been satisfied by the policies by which they extend cable service and therefore internet service to some of our newest neighborhoods. We want more leverage. We want more authority to speak on behalf of our citizens about this extension of cable service and internet service. And we have very little leverage with cable companies except for particular opportunities in time. And their efforts to conduct this merger provide us with one of those rare opportunities. We don't want to be unreasonable, but we want to advocate on behalf of our citizens that are not getting adequate service from the local cable company. So if we've got a little more time to negotiate on this, to enhance our ability to have this fight locally, or to represent our people locally, we'd like to have that extra time before we ask you to pass a resolution just denying the deal. That may be our ultimate recommendation to you. But we've got more time. We'd like to work on it more.
If we deny it, actually, what leverage do we really have, even in denying it?
Eventually, Mayor, they've got to get, all of us have to sign on.
Okay.
So we've got real leverage up to a point.
Okay.
There's a point where if we're too unreasonable, they can walk away from this community and
Leave it there.
Leave it.
we would have overrun the rabbit. So we want to be firm in our stance and our expectations, but we don't want to be silly about it.
When they walk away, they leave the lines and all that. Does that give another cable, like Windstar, or is that who's in Lexington, or who's in
Windstream.
Windstream,
Yeah.
a chance to come into Georgetown or anything like that?
And that's unknown at this point. That's some of the stuff we want to find out. Our cable franchise is not an exclusive franchise, but it is effectively an economic monopoly because nobody else can come in and install the equipment. So it has the effect of being a monopoly, even though it's a non-exclusive franchise. So this is just one of those rare chances where we may have some leverage, and we want to preserve that leverage, and would ask you to give us more time to work on that.
I think it makes sense to do that. You know, I mean, you don't have anything to lose. And, you know, just when I was going door to door, there's so many complaints about Time Warner and not having it in their neighborhoods. And, you know, at this point, having internet's not a luxury, it's a necessity. You know, for people that are retired, disabled, working from home, students. And, you know, it's such a big frustration for our community. So anything that we can do to try to help, I think, is needed.
And we are working through a consortium of cities that are trying to come together to achieve more leverage in these conversations. And that's the group that Andrew met with today and brought back this most recent information. So we're trying to stay on top of this pretty tightly.
To me, this was interesting. I guess this is public information, Andrew.
It is.
No ethics violation for us to.
It's JD Power survey.
Power.
Pretty
You
telling.
know, I've had service by the two of the ones that are listed here. I've had service by Time Warner and DirecTV is at the very top of the list, and to me, and I've got the DirecTV now, and I wouldn't change back for anything. I mean, economic reasons I would, but their service is very, very good. At least my experience.
Yeah, when Time Warner is consistently the bottom name in the various measurements.
Not good.
Not only that, but the system that would end up running our local system would be not even Comcast, but Charter, which consistently ranks even lower.
Lower.
Time Warner.
Lower, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bad.
So you need a motion to postpone Resolution 15.
Yes, sir, please.
Motion.
I make a second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and we will keep you up. That's a pretty big deal for us, so we'll definitely keep you informed there. Number 8 on the agenda, Stacy with our quarterly financial report. One of the administration's obligations to the council is to provide you with a quarterly financial report. Stacy does those very well, and you'll find them in your packet every quarter, and we'll spend just a few minutes going over them.
Yes, and just for the new council members, just to let you know, I tried to get every month, usually by the second meeting of the month, the previous month's financial report. Those go in the packet. I don't make a presentation on them, but quarterly, I kind of try to hit the very high notes of how we're doing on our revenues and expenses and touch on our largest revenue sources and where we are at in that. So for now, for the December, obviously 50% of the way through the year, our revenues are approximately 53.44% collected. That is including some estimated net profits payments from Toyota. So taking those out, we're at about 44.6. Keep in mind that the month of July is usually attributed to the previous fiscal year. So almost all of the revenue we collect in July gets thrown back. So when you're looking at the revenue standpoint, even though we're 6 months into the calendar part of the fiscal year, we really only have about 5 months of revenue because everything you collect in July goes back to the previous year. With our expenses, if you look at the report that was in your packet for the monthly financial report, you may have seen that we were 60% of the budget through our expenses. Our new accounting system uses encumbrances, and there's a column that's called outstanding encumbrances, and what that is, in our new accounting system, you can do a purchase order to hold the funds. So some of our departments have gone ahead, whether it be, for example, police department rent, have gone ahead and done a purchase order for the whole year to reserve those funds. So that's why it looks like that. If you take the encumbrances or purchase orders out of the equation, we are only 48.87% through our expense budget, which is pretty much right on target. We do have obviously some bills in July that get thrown back to the previous year, but not to the extent that the revenues get thrown back, so those are minimal. Some of our largest revenues that we look at, obviously, are occupational license fees. We have our 1% payroll tax and our 1% net profits. We budgeted $10,825,000 for our payroll taxes. Currently, we have collected approximately 44% of those. But compared, our quarterly sheets that we use, you see the prior 4 years. And these analyses, they just roll forward every quarter. So for the first 2 quarters of the year, that line at the bottom, if you look at the 2014 column, you come down year-to-date comparison, we are $321,000 and change ahead of where we were this time last year for payroll taxes. So that's a good thing. And again, 44% of our budget, that's right on target, because if you look at 5 out of 12 months, that's only 41.67%. Our net profits, I always have to do a little math to help explain those to you when we're getting estimated payments from Toyota. But we budgeted $1.3 million. And to let you all know what we did, as you know, we're going into the incentive program with Toyota. That will take place beginning the 2015-2016 year, so the next budget cycle. So starting with this fiscal year, we budgeted just for our typical net profits, and anything from Toyota was going to go into reserves. So when you look at our budget for net profits, we only budgeted $1.3 million. We've received $2.6 million. $1.8 million of that is from Toyota in estimated net profits. So we've really received approximately $800,000 in non-Toyota net profits. So, which is a good number. I mean, that's over half of what we've budgeted. So,
It's important to
obviously,
note that those Toyota payments are estimates
Yeah.
Yeah.
and subject to refund.
Yes, they are.
they are. That happened
You
last
make
year.
so many carrots.
Subject to refund. So those balances, we always have to treat very carefully, since they
Yes.
could have to be refunded.
And that is a very good point, Mayor. If you actually look at the 2014 column, when I presented the July to September quarterly report, we had not finished our audit. After the Revenue Commission's report comes out, our auditor usually makes us adjust our occupational license revenues to match what the Revenue Commission has. And you'll see in June, it shows a negative $500,000 in revenue in June due to refunds that occurred immediately after July 1. So as he said, those are always subject to refund, and that is what happened last year. So we have received 3 quarters of estimates, 1 more quarter to come, but it could all be adjusted next June or July. But still doing pretty well. The insurance premium tax collections, we budgeted $2.2 million. We're currently at 25% of our budget, which is right where we should be. 1 quarter collected, 25%. Obviously, the second quarter, the October to December, we start collecting those in January, so you'll see those reflected on the next quarterly budget. It does show us running about $86,000 behind where we were at this time last year, but again, I didn't budget quite as high as what we collected. So again, 25% of the budget collected is pretty much right where we should be on 1 quarter of revenue.
And your council will continue to be frustrated as time goes on. We have very little documentation from the state in terms of insurance premium tax. It's hard to track. It's been a complaint of mayors for a very long time. We get this money and it's a significant sum, but we have little audit trail. We have little ways to go back and check. It's just a bit frustrating.
Just when they send the return in, we get it, right, Tracy? So sometimes they
It's
could
unlike
file.
other
Yeah.
revenue
That's
items. We're very much in the blind. We can set it based on history, but we just don't get a lot of documentation with the money we receive.
One of our other, obviously, largest revenue sources, property tax collections. Those of you that were here in December, we approved our budget adjustment. We decreased our expectations based on the lower personal property tax rate. So we budgeted $1,370,000. we were at about 88% of the budget. And I got a little worried when I was looking at this at first, and it showed we were running about $199,000 behind last year, when of course we lowered our revenue by $130,000. I went and looked at the January receipts today, and we have collected $230,000 in property taxes in January. So that made me feel better. Obviously, you cut this off at a specific date and look at it, and again, obviously the next quarter will show that improvement. As you can see, last January, we showed collections of $87,790. So this January, we're going to show collections of $230,000. So even though right now it's showing us running behind last year as of December, next month will show a different picture when those January receipts are accounted for. So that's why I always sometimes try to glance ahead so that you can see that. And finally, the alcoholic beverage regulatory fees. We pretty much run a quarter behind these on reporting. Again, kind of like the insurance premium taxes, they report everything at the end of the quarter. So when I reported in October, we didn't have the first quarter numbers in yet. You can see for the July to September quarter, we collected $210,908, which is 29% of our budget, and $39,146 ahead of where we were this time last year. So those are trending up just a little bit, and collected just a little bit more than a fourth of that. That is all I have for the quarterly, really, financial analysis, unless you have any questions. The next thing in our meeting, the mayor and I discussed, I just wanted to touch with you. If the mayor doesn't mind, I'll pass this out. This is an ordinance. It's Ordinance 05004 that governs the preparation, publication, and administration of the annual budget. And I'll touch on a couple of the highlights that you'll see coming up here over the next 5 months. And then I'll give you a copy so you'll have it for your reference, since it is an older ordinance. No later than the first regular meeting in February, so the February 9th meeting, the mayor and I will present to you a schedule for the preparation and presentation of the budget. So that'll include any finance committee meetings that we decide to go ahead and set. It'll include any regular council meetings that we anticipate discussing the budget and anything else that the mayor and I decide. That is not a carved-in-stone schedule. We can add meetings with the 24-hour public notice if needed. And, of course, obviously cancel any meetings that we determine are not necessary with the proper public notice. But that will at least give you an idea of what our plan will be from February through the end of June as we move forward in this budget process. The next one is the presentation of the proposed budget. No later than the first regularly scheduled meeting in May, we will present the mayor's proposed budget at that time. And then the adoption of the budget is to be first reading no later than the first regular meeting in June, with the second reading no later than the second regular meeting of June. And of course, legally, I think by statute, it is supposed to be adopted prior to July 1. So that's just to give you a little bit of an idea, and I do have copies of this ordinance. So you have that for your records.
Thank you. As Stacy's handing this out, I thought this ordinance was real helpful for the precise milepost it gives us in terms of budget preparation. Since it's an older ordinance, a few things have happened since then. For example, the interlocal committee meetings between the fiscal court and the city council have asked that interlocal funding amounts be traded back and forth, probably at a date that may be even earlier than what this ordinance calls for now.
Yes.
So there may be some updates of that type that we've worked through on various committees, but this gives a really good outline for us to follow.
And I think the format of the budget as well. I'm not sure if we're still following that 2003-4 format, but it is what the ordinance says.
And these are the latest dates by which we can do certain things. We clearly can consider some of these things earlier than the schedule that's presented. Historically, the county government has their budget passed a little bit earlier than the cities because they have a requirement that their budget go to the Department of Local Government for approval for form and substance. The city doesn't have that requirement. We're willing to start on this budget early and intend to. the trade-off is the earlier you start, the less historic data that you have. And your projections are getting a month longer for every month that you start earlier. So there's a bit of a trade-off in accuracy, but we intend to find that right balance between trend analysis and getting started, but not lacking information that we need. Any questions for Stacy about budget preparation or her quarterly financial report?
It was helpful. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Helped a
I've
lot.
got one question.
Yes.
Have you looked in your little crystal ball and seen where we're going to be sitting with the incentive money coming out of the budget?
One of the things we've looked at and that was presented to the past council is our reserves are, I don't know the exact figure, but they're very close to 9 million. And with adding the Toyota net profits that we are getting, we should be able to manage the incentive using our reserves without dipping. Our last projection made some assumptions about continuing to get the net profits money from Toyota, but at that point, I think we were looking at not dipping below 4 to 5 million in our reserves while being able to hold and manage, keeping everything else balanced in the budget.
For the whole time period of the incentive?
That was for the first 4 years. We would see up a dip. The first 4 years are the largest portion. They're 2.5 million per year for the first 4 years of the incentive that we will potentially give up in our payroll tax revenue. After the first 4 years, the incentive changes to 1 million per year. After that, our reserves start to go back up. Is the projection. So it is a little bit of a couple of assumptions there, and that's something the mayor and I will work at, obviously, as we go working into this next budget cycle, because it will be the first budget cycle that's directly affected by the incentive.
And Chuck, I think that's the really pertinent question for all of us. We think that we'll deal with this most effectively by extending our planning horizon just a little bit further out. Look at our capital budgeting just a little further out. If that can give us a better, more accurate picture for down the road, then I think the council can have an informed conversation about how deeply into our reserves are we willing to go during this period. We know that we will have to use some reserves during this 4-year period when we forfeit $10 million. But I think we ought to be able to budget far enough out to where council can have a say-so about how deep we want those reserves to be dipped into. And at this point, we have projections, and we want to continue to have those conversations with you about how we weather these 4 years and what our financial picture should look like at the end of these 4 years.
So it's a 10-year incentive. And from
Yes,
what I
sir.
understand, when the state brought this to the council in the past, there was no forecasting done or model done as to when we were going to recover the money and start going into a plus. Has that been done?
I mean, I presented some fund balance projections to council over a couple of times over the last year that did show when we anticipate, of course, we anticipated our lowest point of fund balance coming at the end of the first 4 years. And there were some assumptions made, yes, about Toyota continuing to have a strong business as they are right now, but with those assumptions that, yes, we would start to recover after the first 4 years.
I think on the 6th year, we were back about where we were at, or 7th year.
Yes,
I'm not mistaken.
like I said, and of course, obviously, the mayor and I will continue to have some discussions about how we develop this budget with that. But there were some projections presented to council last year.
And if I think I understand Mr. Bradley's question. I don't think there was a return on investment type calculation done at the time the incentive package was presented to the court and the council. We've projected what our financial picture will look like for 4 years, and we think it's manageable. But that accurate ROI calculation was real hard to come to. Probably the biggest variable that we can't put a number on was the fact that this plant stays relevant and our employment levels stay high, as opposed and being in a growth situation rather than a declining situation. So I look forward to the day when we have enough data to really do that ROI calculation, and I think that'll benefit all of us. At this point, I think the best we can do is manage our money and manage our expectations in a way that get us through this, being able to take care of our employees and our citizens' needs, but not considering any tax or fee increases. That's our management challenge, and I think we can do it.
That's good.
Any other questions for Stacy?
No, Mayor, can I make a quick comment? Along those lines, and I think it's something that we all realize, but sometimes we don't see the true impact. And when every decision that we make that's a financial decision may seem like a small impact this year, but it's magnified each and every year. And that tangible tax, I'm not picking on the tangible tax. I'm just using it as a learning tool for all of us, for me, if nothing else. But if it reduces our income, and I called Tracy when I saw your report and I saw the property tax was down, I wanted to kind of know, and she shared with me, what was going on, and it had to do with the tangible tax. But that $130,000 this year, is $260,000 in 2 years. Pretty soon it's $500,000, in 4 years it's $500,000. And in 8 years, that's $1 million. And it, all that has a big impact. And we talked about buying the garbage truck tonight. And I know several years ago, when we talked about changing the fee structure for garbage pickup, that was a pretty debated conversation. But if we hadn't made the changes then, because we were having to subsidize quite a few things in public works and sanitation at that time. But if we hadn't made those changes then, we wouldn't be in a position now to be able to pay cash for the truck that we're talking about doing tonight. So each decision that we make, going through, for the rest of this year and going into the budget, it sometimes it seems like just a little adjustment now, but it's magnified if you look at it. Just like an amortization schedule will show you the interest and principal reduction. Anyway, I just want to share that.
Good point.
Good point.
All adds up.
One that we need not. I trust you won't let us forget.
Well,
He's not. He's not. Believe me, I'm telling you right now. He won't.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy.
All right, thank you all.
Bob, you're not going to believe it. Bob asked me early today if he could be early in the agenda, and I said, well, sure, Bob, you can be early in the agenda.
It's earlier than a lot of nights, I'll say that, yeah. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Just have one agenda item for tonight, requesting approval of a purchase order to Rod & Myers in the amount of $12,975. That's to install 4 Hach turbidity meters at the water treatment plant. This is a capital project line item in our fiscal year 2015 budget, and our board previously approved this item on December 16th.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Second. And I'm glad to even know that a turbidity meter measures the cloudiness in the water.
That's right.
Whale.
Things you remember from being a mayor before.
Learn something all the time.
Is there any questions for Bob before we vote on that approval? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else, Bob?
That's all for
So we
tonight.
held you this long for.
That's, hey, good for me. Thank you all.
Chief Bosse.
We had our first meeting with our art community, and we're going to have another one here in the next couple of weeks, but we opened the doors to ideas about how do we symbolize some of the culture inside policing in the building through art by using some of our local people to do that. So I think we're going in the right direction there, and they've got some really good ideas. There is a CPA class starting next week. There is still room in that class if you know anybody that's interested in attending. Officer Natalie Payne is the person to contact. And we still have some paper available if anybody hasn't bought one of those papers yet. So, and we're going to have to shut it down fairly soon. So if you're interested in getting your name on the building, it's going to be here for the next, 200 years. So.
That's right.
Oh, you need a
Here you go, Chief. I'll take
Yeah,
one.
give me one.
Good to do.
Thank you, sir.
I'll borrow some money from my wife.
And
It's contagious.
for those of us that aren't as familiar with the acronyms, the CPA is not an accounting degree. That would be the Citizens Police Academy.
And it's fun.
It's good.
And it's a
Well
good
worth it.
thing.
They wouldn't let me have a gun, no, no kidding.
They wouldn't
Wonder
let you buy
why.
the gun.
It's probably smart.
I actually like the gun.
You know, Connie, when I was president of the bank, they wouldn't let me play with the money either.
Good thing. Same, yeah, take that analogy. Thanks, Mayor. That's good.
Chief, is that all you've got for us?
Yes, sir.
Those pavers, folks, they are getting ready to shut the door on that, and we're going to be proud of this police department, and I do think you'd want a family member's name that you cherish, or your own, or an opportunity to have your name there.
It's important.
We're down to the part of the agenda for council comments. How do I segue myself into this garbage truck purchase?
Marvin?
Me?
Council comments. Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir. The sanitation committee did meet this afternoon, and Mayor Prather was in with the meeting, and we decided to bring a possibility out to bid for a new garbage truck. And I will bring Stacy and Linda up front. They can explain it all better than I can, but it will not be no funds pulled out of the general account. It'll be paid cash, my understanding. And it's very needed. It's needed extremely, they said, so. So Linda, you can tell them exactly what's going on, and but we support it 100% and see what happens.
Okay, as most of you are probably aware, sorry, I've got a kind of a cold coming on. If I sound like a frog occasionally, I sat too close to Marvin there a few minutes ago.
There you go.
Yes. We've had quite a need for equipment at Public Works. We've got, we lost 3 major trucks in a safety inspection back when I first started out there. Our trucks are old. They get used a lot. They get used heavy and every day and all of that. Checked into the availability of possibly leasing one, trying to use the remainder of funds that I had left in the account that you all placed in contingency. And in the process of looking at that possibility, presented it to, we talked to Marvin and Millie tonight and talked to Finance Committee and some of the people on Finance Committee and stuff like that. And we maybe have come up with another option. The need, I can't begin to express how much it's needed out there. What I'd like to purchase is another, they call them a one-arm truck or an automated truck. It only requires 1 operator, so it's not 3 men. It's 1 man, which is highly efficient. We have one already. It picks up about 25% more garbage each day than the 3-man truck does. So it's the state of the art in the garbage business these days. And
There's one out there, right? If we go ahead and give you the permission to put it out for bid?
I
possibility?
have found one. There's possibly
Right.
one if we go ahead and bid it right away. Might be able to get it held right away. I would certainly hope that that would happen. That would be
If not, it takes what?
9 months.
9
Oh,
months.
wow.
It's a 9-month lead time.
Wow.
So,
Good.
any questions about it? Any more information? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
Got a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of which is, I mean, I know it's still early in the game. If this was just discussed tonight, but you have a price range of what we're looking at?
They're about $250,000. I have a quote on one that's $2,228, but I'm not sure that one's still available. So it's going to be approximately $250,000.
If we went, and I know there's been quite a bit of discussion of this over the years. If we went with a one-arm truck, are we still going to have to go behind it though and pick up items?
Here's
that
what
are
we're
not
doing.
in the Herbie?
Yeah, here's what we're doing right now. Those trucks are super fast. Let me think. Pleasant Valley. Any of you familiar with Pleasant Valley? The guy in the one-arm truck picks that up in an hour and 15 minutes. So it is super fast. We can't pick up cardboard with it. Cardboard jams up the whole mechanism. Cardboard that is left in the cans, when they go to flip the cans over, it just acts like a vacuum. Even those little styrofoamy, plasticky things, or the TVs are wrapped in it. So that kind of stuff, you need to set outside of it. But we have a man in a pickup truck that comes by, picks up all that cardboard, takes it to our recycling center. So that doesn't go to the dump. So the can then can pick it up. If they need 2 cans, then we can flip 2 cans. So that's all they're doing is running in front of the automated and picking up those cardboard boxes and breaking them down and taking them on in there. If we got another automated truck, that same truck that now goes off and does something else after that first hour or so that it takes him to run that route, would do both routes at one time. So I've got, instead of having 3 men on a truck, I've got 2 drivers on 2 separate trucks, and then I've got 1 guy following around for maybe at the most a half of a day picking up the overflow. And then that cardboard's going to recycling, which we sell.
So if we were to move forward, it would, am I correct in assuming that it would be if you had to choose a 2-man or a 2 or 3-man truck or a 1-arm truck, you and the mayor would, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, would want to go in the direction of a one person?
The automated truck, yes.
That's the direction we would want to move in?
That's the direction we want to move in.
Mark, we've got a route that the 1-arm truck is very efficient in some neighborhoods, but just won't work at all in some older neighborhoods. And we've got a route that we think this additional 1-arm truck will work very efficiently in. So we think we've got a need, and we can utilize it immediately, I think, for those efficiencies. Even with the requirement that we have somebody in a pickup truck getting some cardboard ahead of us or behind us, it's still a greater efficiency.
Okay. One last question. I know you did this towards the mid to latter part of last year.
Yeah.
But I know there's obviously, if you could just kind of refresh us on your current equipment, the age. So everybody here knows what we're dealing with on the age of your equipment.
We have a 2015 rear loader. That's a 3-man truck. We have a 2013 automated truck. That's the 1-man truck. We have another 2011 rear loader truck. The next truck in my fleet is a 2006 rear loader, a 2005 rear loader, a 2002 rear loader, a 2001 rear loader. So, the last 4 trucks are in the shop twice a week. One of those is run every day. One of those 4 trucks has to run every day to cover all the routes. One of those 4 older trucks.
So that means you've got 4 on the street every day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we think we're relatively close, Mark, to needing, we're using 4 zones pretty effectively now. We're not that far away from probably having to reconfigure those into 5 zones. We're kind of at the point of looking when we make that step. So, again, in our effort to try and utilize the committees well, we asked the Public Works Committee to meet with us, and Millie and Marvin did that. Then we also wanted to talk with the Finance Committee to get their best thinking on how we should approach paying for this. So I think we've also got a recommendation from the joint chairs of the Finance Committee to actually, rather than the council has an appropriate reluctance to take on more debt. We'd like to work our way out of debt rather than going further into debt. And Stacy was able to present to the Public Works Committee and the Finance Committee that we have a surplus in our dedicated sanitation fund. Those funds, of course, come from garbage fees and they can only be spent on sanitation-related items. We have a carry-forward balance in our sanitation department, even after we take care of, there's always a shortfall in recycling. Recycling never completely pays for itself. But even as we set aside what we need to cover our recycling shortfall, we still are showing a surplus in our sanitation fund of $535,000. So
just to, I guess, go along with what you're saying, we did have that, Connie and I had that opportunity this afternoon to meet with Stacy, and Stacy had kind of been sharing some information with us, I guess, prior to our finance meeting. And I guess our thought is that we would use those funds and to avoid the financing. There's always a situation where we could come back later if we needed financing for some other project or whatever the case may be. But when you've got $9 million in your general fund and $530-some thousand in this particular fund, we just didn't see the sense in going out and trying to obtain financing and the cost associated with it at this time.
But the request for tonight is actually
Bid out.
just going
It's
out.
the bid out. That's right.
I'll make that motion that we put it out for bid, and maybe one of the finance people will second it.
I'll second it.
There you go. Put us both on the boat.
Motion's been made and seconded that we go to bid for a new one-arm garbage truck. We anticipate the cost being around $250,000, and it would be our expectation that we pay for that with cash from surplus funds in the sanitation fund. We also want you to know that we're at least having a conversation with each of these committees. There's a program where some of these garbage trucks that are equipped in the right way to where they may be attractive to commercial haulers a year or so down the road. They have a program where after we own this truck for 1 year, we can send it through their auction and we are guaranteed an 85% return on our original purchase price. That is a minimum. Depending on the market conditions, that could be higher than an 85% return. It's simply, we don't have to make this decision at the time of purchase, but we want to keep in mind we do have an option of, at this fairly defined cost, to maintain a new truck as we go forward. That's just a new program that Linda has researched and found for us. It may fit our needs. We know of other communities that have stayed in new equipment and simply rolled those trucks over each year with this 85% guarantee. We're willing to consider that. We're not asking you for that decision tonight, but we would like to go to bid as quickly as we could. Any other questions on Marvin's motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can bid on the truck.
Or make a phone call quick.
Call quick.
She probably done called him.
Now for council comments where I really don't have an agenda item in mind.
I don't have anything, Mayor.
You don't have anything else? Polly? Millie?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to address a situation that deeply concerns me. On July 11th, 2013, Loretta Wallace, a 22-year-old mother, was killed on Main Street by a car right around the Kentucky Avenue area. In this, I've got some pictures and things that show exactly where she was hit and the fact that there's no sidewalks. This is a quote from the policeman, Captain Robert Swanigan, with the Georgetown Police at that time. Any pedestrian traffic in that area is pretty dangerous. I mean, the road is very narrow. There's very little room for cars if they have to go over. That's just not enough room for somebody to walk on the road, said the captain. I'd like to pass this down and show even pictures on West Main Street from, well, actually, there's two apartment complexes. There's Crown Point and Claremont. And there is no sidewalk on that side, nor is there one on the other side where the farmland is. And there's pictures of people actually walking. There's one piece of property on West Main Street that has a fence up where they eliminated their sidewalk. Not sure how that works. You would have to, I'm not sure if that was a legal situation that he could have done, but he did it. There is a way to cross over on the other side of Main Street and have a sidewalk. But it really concerns me because I live there, West Main Street, and I see, and Polly does too, I see mothers pushing baby strollers in the dirt on the side where there's very little room. And I just think, you know, a young lady's lost her life, and we need to do something about that. We need to address the safety. Megan was talking about bike routes and sidewalks and the safety feature, and that's definitely a safety feature.
We also talked about the person in the wheelchair that was hit too, and I live near there as well. I mean, and you see people pushing baby strollers walking in the road, and it's really just a major accident waiting to happen. I mean, it's horrible because people, you know, they're going to save a lot, or they're, you know, going to court, or they're, you know, walking downtown, and there's just there's nothing
no
for
option
them.
for them. Not between the two apartments.
Yeah.
Until they get to Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah.
So I just wanted you all to be aware of that, and if you'd consider thinking about trying to fix that problem that we have.
It is a dangerous area. Thank you for bringing it to the whole council's attention.
Thank you.
And maybe folks could drive by and eyeball this, and we can have some more conversations about it.
I would like that.
It is in the same area, if you're in the area Millie is talking about and you're trying to walk downtown, there are some yards on Main Street where the property owner has elected to take up the sidewalk and put in iron fencing that blocks where the sidewalk used to be. The house right across from the water company
Yes.
on West Main Street.
There's a picture in there showing
she's
a
got
man
a
walking
As
in the street.
they've put up metal fencing and removed the staircase.
Is there an easement in place?
I have asked planning and zoning, code enforcement, our city attorney, and anyone else that'll listen to me, that I'd like for that situation to be completely reviewed. David, we think those improvements, those changes were made to that property without any permission. But the sidewalk's gone. Then there's a metal fence, and then there's a plastic fence. And I walk up there frequently, and in addition to the area that Millie's brought to our attention, if you live through that, then you still have more challenges as you get closer to downtown.
You do.
And,
Sure do.
I think it's completely inappropriate, and I've asked our enforcement staff to look at it as carefully as they can. Andrew, I don't know if you want to comment further on that now, or if you need to do more homework.
We do want to do more homework. It is slightly complicated by the fact that it is a state road.
Right.
And it is a state road that has been a state road for possibly over a century.
Right.
And as such, the records for easements and such can be tough to come by. And I think we had a conversation with District 7. It's been some time now. It was probably back right around the time this incident occurred, about easements and right-of-ways. And my recollection of the conversation was that their records did not show easements extending beyond the road.
Blacktop.
And in that situation, what you have to do is, as a city, is decide, well, either you pressure the state to expand their easement, since it's a state road, or we have to acquire those easements to make it a public right-of-way that we have the right to demand sidewalks on. But before we get into any of that, we want to know for sure what those what the exact facts are. We'll get together with the folks at the state. See if we can.
Well, there did used to be a sidewalk there, and they dug it up, so.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There
they dug
was
it
a
up.
right of way.
Yeah, because I used to walk on it all the time.
Me
so.
too.
Do you remember how
Really
far
did too.
back the sidewalk went?
It's even with
With the others.
Jerry Greer's house is the house in between Tucker Funeral Home and this house we're speaking about. And it was straight even,
It was straight
even with
even.
that. Now, that sidewalk's got ivy growing all over
Did
it.
it go back
Okay.
past Kentucky?
Oh, wait, we're talking about two different things.
We're talking about the house with
Oh.
that
With
put
the
up the
fence.
fence.
The
Okay,
fence,
now,
I'm sorry.
The other, I don't think there's ever been a sidewalk at the other, by Kentucky Avenue.
Oh, not by Kentucky. No, there hadn't been. No, there's been nothing there. But there's
I was just
space.
piggybacking on their concern
Yeah.
with this issue, with this other house.
Right.
You know, the other issue is there on the corner of Kentucky Avenue, that slope is so severe,
Yeah,
and then there's a
it's
ditch.
slope.
There's really not a good place for somebody to get off the road
No
You
and
place.
seek
There's no
safety
place.
in that
Nothing.
particular area anyway.
In those two
bad.
apartment
The other side road
complexes, if
didn't
they
work.
want to
Yeah.
Because it's
go
straight
anywhere,
drop
they
down.
got to walk on the street.
Yeah.
And if we want to pride ourselves as being a walkable community, we've got some things that we like.
Exactly.
Sidewalks
We
put in,
really
don't they?
do.
Safety. I know sidewalks go all the way down Broadway, in front of CVS and continue
Yeah.
on. And,
Thank you. You know, anything else,
no, that's all.
Holly?
I had a question about all this. Is it being all of this lovely wall? Is it being?
Would you like a piece?
Are they? Has it been inspected? I was telling them I want to
your memory
scrape.
book?
Like I want to scrape it and paint myself, but
Be careful.
that would defeat the
They may
purpose.
say you're coming.
But is the building being inspected, or where do we stand with?
We are walking around daily and trying to inventory the uglies in this building.
Good.
And it's going to be a part of our grand council tour.
Oh,
We're really keen on getting that done.
yeah,
And
be good.
that's water infiltration. It would do no good to scrape it and paint it today
Yeah.
until we fix
Oh, I know.
the
It
Where the
wouldn't.
water's coming from.
It wouldn't do anything.
I don't know how long ago, but they re-tucked that brick out there. How long ago it's been, Dave? Do you remember that?
I do remember.
Because it was leaking so bad.
I was mayor at the time, and actually, they didn't go all the way over here. It was mainly back
In this section here where it's still leaking?
It was back into this corner, because it was coming in on that wall, so now it's leaking there, but it's not coming in on the wall. That was 2008, 2009, somewhere in here.
just about rotted out.
Yeah, they are. I mean, when you knock on it,
Water
yeah,
infiltration.
yeah.
When we do our tour of this building, I would not be surprised if we didn't find some mold issues as well.
Yeah. That makes
So,
sense.
That's on coffee.
Aw.
We've, this building is simply, and possibly some of our other properties simply are not to public building standards.
Yeah.
But step one will be an inventory, and then we'll develop the plan following. You all keep pointing it out to us, because it's not
Don't
going to go
worry.
away.
I
It's
know.
not going to go away.
Don't worry.
Thank you. Anything else, Molly?
No.
Marvin, you done?
No, sir, I'm done. I'm finished.
I know.
Sleep well.
Oh, I know.
Mark, you're good?
Nothing tonight.
I just wanted to comment on the tree that's being trimmed and cut down on the corner of Royal Springs and West Main. We had brought that up at our first council meeting, so
Yeah.
kudos for taking care of that. And the other thing, I was driving around today and I drove over by the police department, the new one. So I encourage you all to go over there. They're blocking it up and they're moving dirt pretty good. It's starting to look like a
Looking good, eh?
building. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. That's all.
And then I would like to make a motion that we move into closed session pursuant to KRS 1.8101C to discuss proposed or pending litigation against or behalf of the city.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Seconded? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Stay here and they leave. Well, set it right up here, Dan, where we can keep up with it.
You'll catch it all.
I know.
He has the pour, Tom.
Yeah.